You're listening to the Author Stories Podcast, bringing you the story behind the stories and the storytellers.
Margaret White,
Sawyer Brooks,
Sheena Kamal,
Matthew Quick,
J.T. Ellison,
Walt D. Williams,
Brad Thor,
Corey, Dr. O,
Brandon Sanderson,
Robin Mom,
Ernest Klein, Jim Butcher,
Sherwin Harris.
Visit hankgarner.com for archives of all the shows. Today's guest is... Well, thanks for joining me again for the Author Stories Podcast, where I bring you the story behind the stories and the storytellers. Today, I am really excited to have T R Ragan on the show with me today. She has a phenomenal new book. It's called Don't Make a Sound, and today is release day for this amazing book. If you love thrillers and crime fiction the way I do, this is going to be a must-have for your summer reading. I mean, don't go into summer without this book. And June 1st is, the perfect kickoff to the summer reading season. And anyway, welcome to the show, Teresa.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We begin each show with the same question, and that question is, what is your first memory of wanting to be a writer or storyteller?
Well, it's kind of a long one, but so stop me if you need to.
No, go right ahead.
Okay. I've been writing forever. I used to write papers for other kids in high school, and I would write angsty poems in my teenage days, but I never thought about being a writer, never. And I would read the books in school. I always loved reading, but still never thought about being a writer someday until I was pregnant with my fourth child. I was 33 years old and on leave of absence from work as a legal secretary at a major corporation. And my sister handed me Jude Devereaux's A Knight in Shining Armor. And the time travel romance took me to another place. The escapism was unbelievable. It was so exciting. I still get chills thinking about it because, it just took me away from diapers and laundry and kids. And right away, I knew that in that moment, I hear a lot of authors say, they read a book that just frustrated them. They threw it across the room and wanted to do better. They could do better. But that wasn't me. It was like, I want to take people away like this. And so that day I started writing and I started researching medieval times, which was a lot of work. So that first book took me 5 years to write. And right from the beginning, I was so determined and passionate. It was almost weird that it had never occurred to me to be a writer prior to that. But should I go on from there?
That's amazing. It's so interesting. Like you said, I've met a lot of people who started writing out of a negative experience. Like you said, I can do better than this. But there's so many people who get inspired by writing, and it just wakes up something in them and makes them want to do it too. I think the writing shows that early motivation, where that comes from. What was the first thing that you started writing? What was that first idea that came to your head that was kind of birthed out of that?
Yeah, so I think because I had just read her time travel romance, that's automatically what I went to. And so I wrote Return of the Rose, and that one was by Teresa Ragan because I used T R Ragan for all my thrillers and mysteries and Teresa Ragan for romance. And so back then, that's why I wrote that one. And it was romance to me, a lot of people think it's about writing about erotica, but it was writing about two people meeting and falling in love. But looking back now, I saw that I always have written about strong women, which is why I wanted to take a modern woman and pit her against a knight in armor who, they're kind of hard-headed from what I've read. So I started there. And then I didn't join Romance Writers of America or any writer groups until that book was finished. And that was kind of eye-opening because I was so excited. I had finished my book. I was on my way. I didn't know anything. I hadn't critiqued with anybody. I had to go to the library back then to read about writing and all of that. And so I started sending out to publishers and getting lots of rejections, and that was like, I was even excited about my rejections because what I had read about writing was that you were going to get them. And so I thought, okay, I'm on my way. This is the beginning. And this is how it works. And so I wrote another time travel, and that one's, I forget, A Night in Central Park. So that was fun too. And I got an agent. So once I got signed with my first agent, so I think I'm 8 years into writing at this point. And I thought, okay, this is it. I'm taking off. 8 years, not bad. And I worked with editors, and I changed different things. And one editor said the ending of one of the stories was brilliant, and I made changes, and nothing happened, and crickets. And so, yeah, I kept going. So then like I said, I joined RWA. I would go to conferences. I didn't have any money, so I would share hotels with writers I didn't know, and not eat very much. My sister would give me money to buy a few books or whatever, but it was exciting. I would run from workshop to workshop, just soaking it all in, learning everything I could. But do you want me to keep going?
Yeah. I'm loving it.
Okay. Because, it was still exciting and fun, but then I realized time travels, it was kind of a niche thing, and the genre, and they weren't selling very well any longer. And so I thought, okay, well, I love romance by Susan Elizabeth Phillips and Rachel Gibson and all kinds of different authors. So I thought, I'll do that. So I started writing contemporary romance, and I wrote at least 4 of those, and still nothing. And I started getting frustrated with the industry, and I thought, okay, what's this about? I'm writing every day. I was raising 4 kids, and I was still working by then. Finally, I couldn't afford daycare anymore, so my husband worked, and I stayed home with the kids, and I'm not the domestic type, so it was good. I had an outlet with writing, but I would write in the car as I waited for them to get out of school. I would write late at night, early in the morning. I mean, I was determined. And I remember watching Oprah, I think it was, and she said, if you can make your dream happen, you just have to persevere and be determined. So I thought, okay, I'm going to see if this works, because I'm not going to give up. And I kept going to conferences, kept going to my local RWA chapter meetings. And I finaled 6 times in the Romance Writers of America unpublished Golden Heart contest. And that was a big deal, because if you finaled, you could get your work in front of an editor, a publisher. And so 6 times I was like I called myself the Susan Lucci of, of the Golden Heart contest. But, so those kind of things kept me motivated to keep going, getting awards, getting good feedback, that kind of thing. But it was pretty frustrating. And then I wanted to write, I think, I don't know, Silhouette, Harlequin, one of those, they had a new imprint called Bombshell. So it was really strong women. So I thought, okay, this is right up my alley. So I went from contemporary romance to like romantic suspense. So then I had a little mystery in there. And my heroine was stronger than the hero. And they said, that's what the publisher told me. She was too strong. So I needed to tone her down. And I didn't want to. So I didn't. And then I left my first agent, got it signed with another second agent. And she almost sold 2 of my romantic suspense. So by now I've written 8 to 10 books. I don't know. I am so getting depressed. It's I would cry when the rejections came in, but I'd only give myself about an hour and then get over it and keep writing. I think but
I have to stop you here and ask a question.
Okay.
Because, and I want you to continue. So please do. Don't forget
Sure.
where you're going. But as the kid who loved stories and the teenager who would write papers for other people, and all of that, was it ever obvious to anyone around you that you had this storytelling ability or gene, or that you loved to write? Because all of these years of writing and not getting published, and the 8 to 10 novels, what was the fire inside you that kept you going? Was there any, encouragement that you got when you were younger, anything that you could hold on to through these tough times? Because, you got, lots of rejection, yet like you said, you would just give yourself an hour or so, and then you would, get up and go on. What motivated you during that time?
That's a great question. So going back to my childhood, my parents divorced when I was 11, and life was great before the divorce. And then after, it was really tough times. And, both my parents, there was 5 girls, no boys, and we were encouraged to get married, have kids. That was the route you were supposed to take. I was never encouraged to go to college or learn or read or do anything that I remember for me. And I'll segue to that later down the road when we talk about the sisters and stuff, because we all kind of had this different, we look back at our childhood differently, but we all agree with the struggles and the divorce and all of that. But so one thing is, I'm not sure where it came from, but I have to say, I have my oldest sister. I'm number 4, so she's number 1 out of 5, and she was the one who handed me that first book. She was the one who read. I don't want to get emotional because she has read my books so many times and taken the red pen, and she was a big reader. She put herself through college in her 40s. And and she majored in English. And so she was like that person that encouraged me and said, this is as good as anything out there. Keep going. And she pushed me all the way, and nobody else. No, but yeah, so her, and then we kind of just had this fire. And I've always been intrigued by strong women in stories and strong women in the world. And I think that was a fire, like Oprah, overcoming all that she did. I still look up to her. So yeah, so strong women kind of gave me that fire.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you wrote these couple of novels where the heroine was stronger than her male counterparts, and
Right.
and the publisher didn't like that, but you believed in the story. So continue from there, please.
Okay, yeah, I was pretty adamant about I wasn't going to soften on that. So although I did want to see my books, I remember that being a big deal. I want to see my books on the shelves at Barnes and Noble or Borders, wherever. I never thought I was going to make much money. Like I said, I talked to other authors. By now, I'm talking to published authors at my Romance Writers of America. There wasn't a lot of money in it. I didn't care. I thought, if I ever made $5,000 in a year, I was going to be super excited. So I'm trying not to get it switched. I think it was 2008, maybe around that time, I read that Lisa Gardner, she was one of my favorite authors. I have many. And she had switched from writing romance. She used a pen name, Alicia Scott, and she started writing thrillers. And she shared all these resources on her website. So I set up we had a small house with, like I said, 6 of us in there. It was a crazy. And one of those folding tables and in my bedroom. And I just dissected all of her books. I ordered a few of the resource things. I went to the library, and for about a year, I would say I'm going to switch to writing thrillers. And I started researching serial killers. And that was pretty depressing after writing romance for all these years. I was like, I mean, it really got to me. I couldn't walk in my kitchen, look at a knife without, how would you kill someone with that? It got kind of weird. And so I was losing a little bit of sleep. So I stopped writing my first thriller and wrote another romance. And then it was weird. I sent the first 100 pages to my agent. And so those 6 months go by and she loved it. And I read it again and I loved it. And suddenly something just snapped in my head. I knew it's not about the serial killer. It's about this so-called victim who's going to not only get through this, she's going to get some revenge and all that, but she's going to thrive. She's a survivor. And that felt really good. And then once that was clear in my head, I knew I had found my new genre. No matter what, I wasn't going to go back. And that was a super exciting time for me. And my agent was a little bit upset that I killed a cat, and it was a fictional cat. And I was like, and she wanted me to take that out. And I wouldn't. Because it was a fictional cat. And it just worked in the story as far as I was concerned. And by then, somewhere in that time, I had told my agent, because I knew she didn't like any of my romance. She wasn't interested in it. And I said, I'm going to sell, 2 of those time travels. I'm going to put those on Amazon, because self-publishing was kind of becoming a thing. I think this was 2011, big early. So March.
Yeah. That was the beginning of the Kindle revolution.
Exactly. And I did not want a Kindle. I liked reading books. And I went hiking with 2 of my sisters. And I'm the type that I like reading whatever is popular. And what was popular at that time was Twilight, big, thick Stephanie Meyer books. And I would have those in my backpack, and they'd have their little Kindle with 55 books on there. And I'm like, okay, I think I'll try this Kindle thing. But I published my first time travel that I'd written. And, by then it had been worked over 1,000 times, both of them. And it took off. I mean, that was the weird. I learned HTML, whatever I needed to convert my story. I've never done any. I'm not a high tech person. You could see I could barely get on Skype, but I did. I learned HTML, not HTML, and big thick book. And I figured out how to get my book, because there weren't formatters out there at the time. I found a lady to make me a cover for $50. And the book took off, and the sales were crazy. I couldn't believe it. And I thought, when the lady wanted me to take out the dead cat, I thought, I'll do this myself. I can do that. I'm going to do this. Is fun. And then I can let readers decide if they like my stories. So that was such an exciting time, because I parted ways with my second agent. And those other romance, I put all the romances on there. So I believe I had like 7 books maybe by the time I had finished my first thriller by then, Abducted. And I loved it. And I was good with serial killers. That sounds horrible, but it was like, wow, they're intriguing. And then, now when you can look them up, it's weird to see that there's, people that, they have pillowcases ordered and with serial killers' faces on them. It's like, oh my God, there's these whole groups. But anyway, we won't go there. The research has been crazy, but my Abducted took off. It hit the top 5. I think it might have gotten as good as number 2 or 3. And it was crazy, Hank. I still can't believe it looking back. I couldn't believe how many of the romance I sold, but so now I had published Abducted by T R Ragan. It took off, and suddenly I I had these publishers that had all turned me down coming after me, emailing me, asking about my book. And so did Amazon with their Thomas and Mercer imprint. And so I picked Thomas and Mercer because they hadn't turned me down.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah, and they thought outside of the box, and I thought, okay. And by then, I had sold over 300,000 books, and I thought, okay, I didn't. My imagination didn't go bigger than that. I was like, this is insane. If they can sell more than that, then let's do this.
World Anvil is a browser-based world-building platform designed for all world builders, writers and novelists, dungeon masters, game developers, and everyone else. World Anvil keeps your world setting safe and organized, helps you find your characters, locations, plots, timelines, and maps quickly and easily as you write. Then, if you choose, you can showcase your amazing world building to the world, beautifully and interactively, to keep your readers engaged. You can even use our professional tier to build your career selling access to behind-the-scenes content your readers will love and growing your community. Build your world setting in any genre with over 25 custom-built world-building templates, complete with prompts to inspire your creativity. Allow your readers to explore the public parts of your world in an innovative new way with interactive maps, timelines, and wiki-style articles. Give special access to co-authors, beta readers, customers, or patrons to see exclusive behind-the-scenes content. There's a free version to get started with all of the major features. Guild membership offers you a host of extra options, including comprehensive privacy settings, co-authors, presentation options, and so much more. Join our community of over 800,000 world builders, including professional authors. Take part in competitions and learn more about world building at this fantastic online community. Use the coupon code HANK to get 20% off all 6 and 12-month subscriptions. WorldAnvil.com. I'm a recent convert, and I know you will be too. That is such an incredible story, and that the feeling of vindication. I know that you're not. I know that you're not the kind to gloat.
No.
But the feeling of all these people that had rejected you, then all of a sudden were, well, you know what? Let's take another look at what you're doing. No thanks. And that's the beauty of the indie revolution, is that we put the power back in the author's hands, and that you had the option to go with them or Thomas and Mercer, or continue to just self-publish the way you were because you were doing perfectly well on your own. That's the beauty of this, is that authors have the power back.
Exactly. And I want to say one thing, and it was therapeutic because I was angry at the industry when I was writing Abducted. And that's what I wanted to say. It was like killing off characters. It was almost not killing those people, but it was getting out my frustrations.
Sure.
I had by then almost 20 years of frustration because not because they didn't want my book, but because I felt like it felt like 5 people in New York were deciding who got published and who didn't. That's what was frustrating. They didn't want books that were like another story. But with indie publishing, like you're saying, there can be 10 or 1,000 or 10,000 books that are all kind of in the same vein. Let readers decide what they want to read. It was just such an amazing experience.
Yeah. After publishing Abducted and it taking off, and then I guess that book was really the entryway that allowed for your deal with Thomas and Mercer. That was the Lizzie Gardner series, right?
Correct.
I think you went on to do about 6 books in her series. Is that right?
Yes, and Abducted I hadn't read a series at that time that I knew of. I remember I was reading Laura Lippman at this time, John Grisham, Lisa Gardner, of course. And I was just going to write Abducted, but it was selling so well and people loved Lizzie. And that was right when Amazon got in touch with me, and they were like, keep this going. So I did, and I ended up writing 6 books in the series. I'd never thought about writing a series, but I still missed Lizzie. And a part of me wishes I didn't end it, but back when I did. But I remember wanting to write about different things and different characters, so I moved on, and I'm glad I did.
So after that series, is that when Jesse Cole comes along?
So before Jesse Cole, okay, this is kind of a fun. I had it in my head. Okay, I'm going to write about sex trafficking, because being in Sacramento, it's a big deal, and it's really happening, and out of sight, out of mind. And so the research for that, believe me, it made me appreciate serial killers. I mean, it was horrible.
Yeah.
And, there's documentaries on it. It's just, I would cry. It's horrible. But I thought, okay, I was in the vein of the movie Taken with Liam Neeson. I thought, okay, I want a regular, everyday housewife. She's a teacher. She has 2 kids and a husband, and fine and happy with her life. And her kids are taken, and it's the whole, and her husband is killed, and she's left for dead. And so those 3, the trilogy, I told my editor at Thomas Mercer at the time, I said, I think I'm just going to self-publish these by myself, because I knew it was a subject they might not want to touch. And they said they wanted it. So I ended up going with Thomas and Mercer so that's Furious, Outrage, and Wrath.
The Faith McMahon series.
Faith McMahon series, right. And so that's one of my favorite stories, but I would never want to touch sex trafficking again, just because it was just so brutal. But it's a great story, and people shouldn't shy away from that because of the sex trafficking, because it's not, it's more about Faith's journey and finding her kids and her family, everyone working together and saving someone.
You brought up a great topic I'd like to discuss for just a minute, because with serial killers and then with sex trafficking, what we don't, and while they're horrible things to have to live with and all that, the great thing about storytelling is that it allows us to confront these fears that we have. It allows us to see the horrific things in the world and come to terms with them in some way. I think storytelling, and especially in novels like this, allows us to see that there can be hope, that the human condition, while broken and flawed, can be overcome in some way. And I think it's empowering to readers and to writers, for that get to write it. But I think we easily dismiss, well, no one's going to want this because it's too hard to think about or read about. Mm-hmm. But I think it empowers people to see that there can be hope and that these things can be worked through.
You're giving me chills. I'm getting a lot of chills today already because that's exactly right. The empowerment in that, to give yourself hope. And sadly, I think so many people have been touched by some of these horrible things, like sexual abuse or whatever it may be, or know somebody or anything, being verbally abused or having a tough childhood. And there is hope. And I think it is good for people to see that it can be overcome. You can survive and thrive and move on. And I like that.
So today we're here talking about a new series and a new book, Sawyer Brooks, and the first book is called Don't Make a Sound. And I see that the second book, Out of Her Mind, is already up for pre-order and already has a cover. So how long have you been working on this series?
Let's see, over a year. I'm writing the third book right now. And I heard you asking another author if they write, 2 books at the same time. What I usually end up doing is like editing book 2 and working on book 3. That's what I'm doing now. But it's in the series, so it's the same characters, so it's not as hard as it would be if I were writing two separate books. But it's overall should I tell you what it's about?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's about three sisters. Like I told you, there's five of us sisters in my family. And I always usually have two sisters in every series I write. But I was excited to have three sisters because they all had these disturbing pasts that they're doing their best to cope with. But they all kind of cope differently. They each deal with what happened to them in a completely different way. And that's what was kind of exciting to write this series. And also there's kind of I've weaved two plots throughout the three books. It'll be three books in the series. And one of the plots is about five women who have met online in a secret dark web group, and they've all been sexually abused, and they get together, they team up to seek revenge on the men who brutalized them. But what's exciting to me and different than, because I always tend to often write about revenge and strong women. But this was a little bit different because for the first time, I really thought, okay, talking about, like right now, talking to you about this group of women teaming up to get these guys, that's one thing. And if we planned and plotted, but actually doing it, I mean, is a whole nother thing. And so I kind of go there, like, things go wrong. It's not as easy as it sounds, or, maybe it doesn't even sound easy, but, everything that could go wrong kind of goes wrong. And, but they stay strong. They don't mean to harm these guys, because two wrongs don't make a right, but stuff goes wrong. And then back to the three sisters. So Sawyer goes back. She's a journalist at a Sacramento newspaper, and she is a newly minted crime reporter. And she goes back for her grandmother's funeral, but her other sisters won't have anything to do with the hometown. But Sawyer's the youngest sister, so she discovers a lot of hidden secrets she didn't know about, and it kind of brings all the sisters hopefully closer together. You'll see.
Teresa, your series, it seems to me, when you're thinking of a new one and creating new characters and series, that there's a theme that seems to come from the beginning. Maybe it's serial killers, maybe it's child sex trafficking, things like that. Was there a theme that interested you from the beginning that then Sawyer Brooks came from that theme, or how did this series start for you?
Yeah, I think the theme was the sexual abuse, the Me Too movement, the thing that has touched a lot of people, men and women. I have a lot of men readers, and so I think that's where I was going with this. And that's why I wanted to show how everybody handles it differently. And that's okay. But we can all get through this together.
So there's going to be 3 books. The first one is out today. The second one you are finishing up, and it'll be out this fall. Is that right?
The second one is done, finished.
Gotcha.
Well, like you said, I finished edits though, and they're out there. So that one comes out November 1st of this year, and then book 3 comes out May of 2021.
That's exciting. That's a pretty fast schedule for publishing these days.
Yeah, it is. Every 6 months, it's, I have to keep writing. I write every day. Well, right now with the quarantine, yeah, I really write every day.
Right. What else is there to do?
Yeah, this is crazy. But yeah, so it is a pretty quick one. But I did have 13 months in between this book, Don't Make a Sound, and my last one, which was Buried Deep, the last book in the Jesse Cole series. So I did have 13 months in between there. So that might happen again at some point. I'm not sure.
I think next year we're going to see a wave of quarantine murder thrillers.
I think you're right.
I can't wait to see what comes out of this. Because as we all know, out of hardship comes great art. So this is going to be great. Yeah. Teresa, this has been so much fun talking. The new book, Don't Make a Sound, out available everywhere today. I highly recommend everyone go grab this, and then tell them where they can find your back catalog and all the great stuff that you do, where they can connect with you online, please.
You can find me at trragan.com, and that's where you can learn all about me. I'm at author T R Ragan. If you go to my website, it shows all my Twitter handle and my Instagram and Facebook. You can find me there, and all my books on Amazon with Thomas and Mercer. That's it.
Teresa, this has been so much fun chatting today. We wish you much success on the new book launch, and thank you so much for taking time to come on the show.
Thank you, Hank. I love your podcast. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Authors, I have a fantastic new service to tell you about. It's called PubSite. PubSite is a service to help you build your very own website, your home on the web, where you can promote your work and give your fans a place to connect with you. PubSite is a website platform that allows every author, regardless of budget, to have a great-looking professional website developed by the book marketing professionals at FSB Associates. PubSite is the new easy-to-use DIY website builder developed specifically for books and authors. Whether you're an author of one book or 20, or a small publisher, PubSite allows you to build, design, and most importantly, update your website pain-free. No need to be dependent on a designer or webmaster to make a small but costly change to your website. Save the money and do it yourself. PubSite is the best platform for authors because it's a book-centric platform. PubSite was built just for authors and small publishers. Every design, feature, and layout is book-centric. They have customized designs for you to use. It's easy to build. No coding or HTML is necessary to create a stunning, professional-looking website with all the features you want. Get a custom domain name, yourname.com. It's simple to update. You can add all of your books, add a blog and a book tour, sell from any retailer, manage your email list and social media, and even do e-commerce. Build your website with a 14-day free trial, then pay just $19.99 per month, which includes hosting. And we offer packages starting at $499 to set up the website for you. Pub-site.com, the place to help authors find their home on the web.